Hi, everyone. Welcome to the MrpTech podcast. This is episode 5. This is a weekly podcast reviewing multiple platforms and technologies to see what is best for you. So today's episode is going to be about Google Chromebooks and Chrome OS. But before we get into that, I just want to make one quick announcement. This podcast is now available on iTunes and Google Play podcasting apps. So please help us grow. Please, if you listen to this podcast frequently, or if you just want to help us out, give a 5-star review for us so that we can be seen by other people, and maybe this podcast will be helpful to new listeners every week. So today's episode is about Google Chromebooks and Chrome OS. The reason I picked this episode is because a lot of the staff that I work with are currently thinking about upgrading technologies to either Office 365 or Google Apps for Education. With that comes the option of purchasing Google Chromebooks or equivalents such as HP Stream. And in today's episode, we're just going to focus on the Google Chromebooks themselves. So what is a Chromebook? If you've never heard of a Chromebook before, a Chromebook is a small device. It's similar to a laptop. It's got a keyboard. It's got a small screen. Usually these screens come in 11.6-inch screens, but they can go up to 14 or 15-inch screens as well. And Google considers a Chromebook as a companion device. And what they mean by that is they're not expecting a Chromebook to take over every task that you need to do on a computer. They expect you to have a PC at home or another device where you can get some more serious work done for certain things that a Chromebook can't do. So those are the things we're going to talk about today. What can a Chromebook do and what can't a Chromebook do? So first of all, when you open up a Chromebook, it will automatically turn on. So as soon as you lift the screen up, it will turn on the device and it'll prompt you with a sign-in screen. Now, you can't create a username and password just for this device. You need a Gmail account. So you would log in as you would for your Gmail, and you type in your username and your password, and it's going to bring you into a desktop screen where you have very limited functionality. So what basically a Chromebook does when you sign in, it's going to bring you into something called Chrome OS. And Chrome OS is the operating system that this particular device uses. So basically what Chrome OS is a very basic web browser, and it will give you access to anything on the internet, anything that you can do on the internet, and there's very limited local storage. So, for instance, when I first got my Chromebook, I only had 16 gigabytes worth of storage on this device because Google expects you to use all of their cloud services and expects you to store all of your information in the cloud using Google Drive or Dropbox or something similar to that. So what I want to do is I want to take a few steps back now and talk about the origins of Chrome OS and some of the pluses and minuses of using something like this. So Chrome OS came about basically in July of 2009. So it's been around for a few years now. And it sort of caught people by surprise. And a lot of people know that it is put out from Google, but they don't understand the history behind it. And so prior to 2009, Google was developing Chrome OS in-house. And they developed it from open source, a different open source operating system called Linux. Linux is known for being super secure, and Chrome OS came from originally a partnership between Google and another company called Canonical. And Canonical is a company based out of England that is known for putting out Linux distributions, Linux operating systems, and they sort of worked together and came up with a base foundation of what Chrome OS would be. They used some code, they helped each other out, and they created this user interface that was originally called Google OS. And as time went on, Google sort of took what they needed and they changed it, and then they went with another type of operating system called Gentoo Linux and sort of took what they needed and developed their own operating system based on what is now called the Chrome web browser. So basically the idea was getting something to connect to the internet and giving you access to web applications and giving you access to web storage, cloud storage. And so Chrome OS came about and was announced in 2009. And basically the idea was something radically different than what you're used to with Windows or Mac, where both the applications that you use and the user data reside in the cloud. So Chrome OS is going to run web-based applications. So that's one big difference that most people will see right away, is the software isn't installed on your computer. It's software that you connect to online. So you can do a lot of things with this web browser, and it's basically gives you access to anything that you can do online. I've said that a few times now. There's very basic things that you can do offline, and you're very limited to the things that you can do without internet service. So many school districts are considering moving to Chromebooks. And one of the reasons for that is because they are low cost. A Chromebook can go for as little as about $200 for a very basic Chromebook. And the highest price is over $1,000 for Chromebooks for the really super nice, expensive Chromebooks. Most people, when they're talking about Chromebooks, are going to gear towards the smaller, lower priced Chromebooks. And the reason for that is prior to 2009, most PC makers were sort of in an upward climb to make the most expensive, the nicest laptop or desktop computers. And there was a sort of race to the top to see who could come up with the most powerful computer, and that price range skyrocketed. Then there was sort of a reversal in that thought process where there was sort of a race to the bottom as far as price concerns were. And so companies were trying to figure out how to make the lowest priced PC and make it available to the public. And so because of the declining sales in PCs and popularity of tablets and mobile devices, there was sort of a race to a bottom now. And so this Google Chrome OS came out, and Google was selling Chromebooks at a unbelievably inexpensive price. So this makes it interesting for school districts who are on a budget and who want to be able to provide their students with new technology without having to spend incredible amounts of money. So many school districts are using Chromebooks now, and there are several local school districts. One district in particular has over 1,000 Chromebooks in the district itself. And there are other school districts that are switching from things like Office 365 to Google Apps and using Chromebooks as well. So let's talk about some of the benefits of using a Chromebook. Earlier I mentioned that web applications were something that Google wants you to use instead of installing software on your computer. And with these web applications, you can find them very easily. Most of them are actually free. There's actually a Google web store. And if you don't have a Chromebook yet, you can actually do this on your computer at home and get used to using the Google web apps. And all you need is the Google browser, and you can search the Google store, Google web store, and start using some of this software now, even without a Chromebook. And that's one of the benefits of being involved with Google and all of these web apps. Another great resource for teachers is the Google Apps for Education, and most teachers in my district are already using some of these, whether they know it or not. The email service that we provide, and things like Google Drive, and all of those apps that are used every day are part of this Google Apps for Education program. And we also have something called Google Classroom that we already have available, where we can develop websites for students to log on, and we can create online discussions, and we can post homework assignments and post links for students to read, and various other things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. I want to talk about some of the benefits of using a Chromebook and why I would want to use a Chromebook in school. First of all, for Chromebooks, the security of using a Chromebook is far superior to that of Windows. And even with Windows 10, Windows 10 is very secure. It's the most secure version of Windows out there right now. But since Chromebooks are based off of Linux, Linux is known for being one of the most secure and safest operating systems based off all the traditional operating systems like Windows and Mac. And so since it's based off of Linux, one of the most secure systems already, you basically don't have to worry about computer viruses for the most part. Google will update your computer every day. And when you turn your computer on, it's automatically updated, and you don't have to wait for downloads. It automatically is kept up to date, just like your web browser would be. So another benefit of using Google services is that your data is in the cloud. So if you're on multiple computers, you can access your information all the time. As I mentioned, the Chromebook cost is very cheap. If you wanted a small computer like a Chromebook, but running Windows or Mac, you're going to run into a price factor. You're going to pay for those operating systems. So a MacBook Air runs about anywhere from $900 to $1,000 for something similar that a Chromebook has. It does a little bit more, but you're definitely paying the price for it. With a Chromebook, basically the idea is you're getting a normal laptop with normal functionality, and there are a few things that you can't do with it, but for the most part, as long as you can access the internet, you're going to be okay and good to go. So let's talk about Google Apps for Education. And I had some concerns based on privacy and Google and what exactly the students would be getting themselves into, as far as would Google be collecting their data just like they do. If you have an Android device or if you have an iOS device and you're using Google Apps, if you don't know, they collect data on everything that you use, whether it's your emails that you send or websites that you visit, or basically they track anything that you do online, the apps that you use, and they want to be able to sell you products. So they're collecting information, they store that information, and was Google doing that with students? That was something that I wanted to know about. So I did a little research on this, and I looked up the privacy aspect of using Google Apps for Education. There's something called the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and Google Apps for Education comply with this act. There's also the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998. Google complies with this. And so basically, as I learned more about this, Google Chrome is secure for students to use. Okay, it's designed with multiple layers of security to keep them safe from viruses and malware without additional security software. And basically, when it boots up, it is dedicated to re-verifying that the device has not been tampered with. And so Chromebooks are accessible for online testing. So that's a great thing for classrooms where you may be doing testing online. You can use your Chromebooks for that. And Google does not track any data from the Google Apps for Education program. So they want to ensure that students in K through 12, that their personal information is not used to target ads or services. And in some cases, they don't even show any ads at all for these products. So that was good to read, and I was happy to see that. So if you're not familiar with Google Apps for Education, as I mentioned, we're already using Gmail and Google Drive. Some people are using Google Calendar and Google Docs or Google Sheets. There are other things, Google Classroom, that are becoming more popular. And basically, it's a way to put your class online and stream any information that you have to students, get your classes a little more organized. You can post handouts on here for the students to print out. You can collaborate with Google Docs, so you can be working on a spreadsheet or a Google document, and your students can get on and also make adjustments to that same document. Or you can have students working together where two students are working on a project, creating a document and print that out for the class to use. And you can share everything in the cloud. So you can share calendars, you can create websites, you can use Google Hangouts to have students talking face to face, and you can save all of your information and use it at a later time. So it's got a pretty great uptime. Google is known for being available just about all the time, 99.9% of the time, goes down very rarely, and it does save a lot of time to have all of this information on a teacher-created website. And for those of you who have never used Google Classroom before, basically keeping your students engaged online is really important. And you can create a website within a matter of clicks. It's very user-friendly for teachers, very user-friendly for students, and you can reuse information that you posted on there. Google Classroom lets you use your calendar and let students know when things are due. You can create due dates. You can put things of students who are not in class. You can post important messages to those students on your Google Classroom website, and it's so easy to use, and it's user friendly beyond anything that most people are used to. There's really no learning curve to it at all. So that's one of the topics that are coming up. Is this really worth it? And are students going to be able to use these products? And the answer is yes. They're very easy to use. So let's talk about some pros and cons of using a Chromebook. Basically, one of the best pros is that these systems are extremely cheap. If they are broken, if they're stolen, if they are dropped, it can be easily replaced without spending a whole lot of money. For instance, if the school district of choice went with iPads, iPads are $500 and up. And if a student dropped an iPad, the chances of that device being replaced is much lower. So these are inexpensive machines, and if a machine is broken, since all of your information is not stored on that machine, that if you were to get another Chromebook and turn it on and sign in, all of your information would be there for you and available for you. So that's definitely a plus as far as I'm concerned. Their functionality is limited, and I will talk about my personal opinions in just a few minutes. But basically, everything is done online. So if a student doesn't have access to the internet, they can do very basic tasks. They can write Word documents, and there is some basic offline aspects to this machine. But basically, everything needs to be connected to the internet. If you ever wanted to run sophisticated software, if you are interested in graphic design or video editing, you're not going to be able to do that on a Chromebook. You're not going to be able to run Photoshop or video editors or audio editors, that type of thing, on a Chromebook. You can use products like Skype, and you can use products similar to Skype. You can use something called Google Hangouts. So basically, if it's a Google product, you can use it. Your data storage is going to be secure, and everything is going to be fully automated. So you don't have to worry about losing your data. I mentioned that earlier. If your machine is stolen, then it's going to be right there for you. Nobody will have access to it unless they have access to your password. As I mentioned earlier, you need internet access for things. So if students are taking laptops home and they don't have internet access at home, they're not going to be able to do a lot. They will be able to write with a word processor, and that's probably about it. Very basic photo editing you'll be able to do, but you're not going to be able to do a whole lot of those things. So you can plug flash drives into Chromebooks or USB drives. So if you have your files on a flash drive, you can. If you don't like the smaller screen, a Chromebook usually has an HDMI port where you could hook in an HDMI cable and plug it into a monitor in your classroom and use it as a normal computer with a bigger screen if you want to do that. That works really great. So I'm going to talk to you now about my personal opinions on Chromebooks. Now, I've had a Chromebook for over a year now. The Chromebook that I have it's called the Acer C720. It's a very popular Chromebook model when it first came out, and it still is very popular today. Chromebooks are really fast, and I mostly use it for web browsing. So it's very fast. If I just want to quickly go online and get something from the internet, a Chromebook is great for that. The free apps are great. Any app in the App Store, most of the apps that I've come across are all free. And what I like about the Chromebooks is they have a keyboard built right onto it. If you have an iPad, the iPad on display keyboard is somewhat bulky and cumbersome, and it's always difficult to type on an iPad. I like having the physical keyboard right there. That's a plus for me. And Chromebooks are inexpensive, and for me that was great too. You don't have to put down a lot of money for the Chromebooks. On the other hand, for me, I need a computer that's powerful, and not everybody is like this. So this is just my opinion. So I can't do video editing on this computer. I can't do audio editing, and that's something for me that I need another device for. Now, when I first started this earlier, I said that Google explained that this is a companion device. So they're expecting you to have another device at home where you can do those heavy resources. So if you're just using a Chromebook for basic tasks, trying to get some work done, sending emails, connecting online, reading articles, doing research, those things, Chromebook is great for. So as far as I'm concerned, anything that a student needs, a student can do with a Chromebook. And most people have access to the internet, at least at school. And if they had access at home, then this would be a great device for students. This would be a great device for teachers as well. And getting teachers and students using all the same software and hardware really makes for a better overall experience, better learning experience. And that is ultimately the most important choice that we need to make for our students, is giving them an opportunity to learn from their teachers, see their teachers using this hardware and software and understanding how to use it so that they are prepared when they move forward into college, and they know how to use this stuff by the time they get into college, and that's really a most important thing. So if you are using a Chromebook in your school district, I would like to hear from you, and please send me some feedback on this episode. What are you using your Chromebook for? What are you doing with your Chromebooks at school? And I'd be interested in learning more about what's done in school districts that are currently using these Chromebooks. So please send me an email. This is you can email me at mrptechreviews@gmail.com. I've also got a website. It's mrptechreviews.wix.com/home. That's where you can find all episodes of this podcast. And you can also find us on Facebook, MrpTech Reviews. Just search for it. And there are a few different videos on YouTube as well that are posted giving tutorials of various software and hardware reviews. So I'm going to keep going with this. If anybody has any questions, feel free to email me, and I'd be glad to talk about them in a future episode. And thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and we'll see you next time.